now. Good evening, I'm Chris Costa in for Pat Callahan. We begin with breaking news tonight. Police say 21-year-old Savannah Smith of Bucksport has been arrested and charged with murder in connection with the death of a 2-year-old girl. Chloe Hawksley was found dead inside a home on Central Street in Bucksport in October of 2017. Police say a grand jury indicted Smith earlier today and later arrested her at the Spring Fountain Motel in Bucksport. Police say she was the partner of Chloe's father, Tyler Hawksley. Smith was taken to the Hancock County Jail and will likely be in court on tomorrow or on Monday. Chloe's death was the first of 3 child deaths in Maine in the span of about 5 months, cases in which parents or caretakers of those children were arrested. We'll have the latest on those other 2 court cases coming up later in the newscast. Today, people across Maine mourned the death of State Police Detective Benjamin Campbell. Detective Campbell died early yesterday in a freak accident along I-95 in Hamden. Police say he was helping people stranded in a car on the side of the road when 2 tires of a passing logging truck came off, one of which hit and killed him. Today, officers from all across the state joined in a procession to bring Detective Campbell's body from the medical examiner's office in Augusta to Millinocket, where he lived with his wife and 6-month-old son. This is video of the procession leaving Augusta around 3 o'clock this afternoon. The long line of police officers who showed up to make the drive represented departments from all over the state of Maine. And this was the scene as the procession moved through Hamden this afternoon, passing by the site of the crash along I-95. And finally, the procession came to an end at the Lamson Funeral Home in Millinocket. Officers saluted Detective Campbell's body as it was carried out of the hearse and into the funeral home. As we mentioned earlier, Detective Campbell lived in Millinocket with his wife and infant son. Not only are his family and friends trying to process the loss, but so is the entire community.
Pay my respect. That's all I can do. Just painful for everybody. It's the whole talk of the town, and nobody's not missing him already, and it's only been a day, and it's hard to deal with. I think they're going to see one amazing show of support for the family because they are such good people, and obviously the state police are missing one of their best, and it's going to be a lot to go on, and hopefully this goes by rather quickly because it's just so painful for everybody.
A lot of people I talked to said they were going to come and watch and, just to show that everybody really feels bad about it and show that the town supports her, I guess. That's why I came out.
State Police announced funeral service plans for Detective Campbell earlier this evening. Services will take place at the Cross Insurance Arena in Portland on Tuesday, April 9th, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. For most 10-year-olds, it's often hard to understand loss that directly impacts them. But that is not the case for a young boy in Florida who is getting attention here in Maine for how he honored Detective Benjamin Campbell.
I'm dedicating my running to run 150 miles for the 150 officers who have passed away last year in 2018. But I also do not want to forget the ones who have already passed away in 2019. So today I'm going to be running for Detective Ben Campbell.
Zechariah Cartledge has been running 1 mile for each fallen police officer in the years 2018 and 2019. So far, he's run 79 miles and sometimes is accompanied by other local Florida officers, like he was Wednesday night when honoring Detective Campbell. He also carries a blue line flag while he runs, and he says he mailed that to one of Campbell's family friends to be given to the detective's family. Well, the sun was out today, but it definitely did not feel like a spring day. The winds ripping through and making it feel like winter is still here. Meteorologist Jessica Conley joins us now. And Jess, is this ever going to warm up?
Coming up in just a bit, Chris.
All right, good news. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks.
15 people were injured in a crash involving 2 vans in the town of Bridgewater this morning. One van carrying inmates, another church members. Police say the crash happened on Bunker Hill during high winds and whiteout conditions. Police say 9 people, including 2 officers and 7 inmates, were in a transport van. 7 passengers, some of whom were minors, were in a second van owned by Full Gospel Assembly of Mars Hill. None of the passengers suffered life-threatening injuries, but some of the injuries were severe, including broken bones, cuts, and dislocations. A woman who, along with her husband, is accused of beating her daughter to death is still trying to be tried separately from him. During a hearing today in Belfast, Sharon Carrillo's lawyers asked the judge to separate her trial from that of her husband, Julio Carrillo. The two are accused of systematically beating Sharon's daughter, Marissa Kennedy, and eventually causing her death. Sharon Carrillo maintains that she was also a victim of Julio's abusive behavior. There's no word on when the judge in the case will make a decision on whether they will be tried separately or together. And the trial of Shauna Gatto will resume tomorrow after a break today. Gatto is accused of manslaughter in the death of Kendall Chick, the granddaughter of her fiancé. Gatto is accused of causing injuries to Kendall that eventually led to her death. Yesterday, a recording of a jailhouse phone conversation between the grandfather, Stephen Hood, and Gatto was played in court. In the recording, Gatto tells Hood not to talk about the evening of Kendall's death. The trial resumes tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Bangor Daily News came out with a stunning article this morning that says more than 20 children with files in the DHHS system, including Marissa and Kendall, have died since January of 2017. In the article, the BDN says DHHS provided the statistics through an information request. The paper found that at least 22 children between the ages of 20 days old and 10 years old died after Child Protective Services were approached by someone concerned about abuse or neglect. 4 of the deaths were classified as homicides. Marissa Kennedy and Kendall Chick were the first two. The third was Jackson Hopkins, whose mother, Miranda Hopkins, was convicted of beating him to death. The fourth was 14-month-old Quinton Levitt, who was killed by his father in a murder-suicide in Presque Isle just last month. The BDN says 13 other deaths were ruled accidents, including 8 who died while sleeping next to an adult, or co-sleeping incidents. The paper also found in a majority of cases in which children had died, their families had been on DHHS's radar for months and sometimes years. Up next, Governor Mills proposes a plan that would make an overdose revival drug more accessible to people in recovery. Plus, what can be done about those potholes that could save taxpayer dollars? All right, are the roads that you travel every day really doing a number on your car? Well, here's a way to make some cash from it. The Maine Better Transportation Association is, once again, running its Worst Road in Maine contest. Residents are invited to submit a brief story or description of a bad road and the negative impact it's had on their cars. The grand prize, $529. That's how much researchers estimate every Maine resident pays in extra maintenance, repairs, and accident costs because of bad roads. Repairs to roads for potholes are costing millions of dollars, and repairs to cars and trucks are also draining drivers' wallets. So, is there a long-term fix out there that could win the pothole fight? Here's News Center's Don Carrigan. A bill that would prohibit state-licensed counselors and therapists from conducting so-called conversion therapy to change a minor's sexual orientation or gender identity will be back in front of lawmakers next week. Last year, former Governor Paul LePage vetoed a bill that would have banned the controversial practice. This time around, the proposal has bipartisan support and the backing of the nearly the entire House Democratic caucus. Opponents of conversion therapy say it can lead to shame, depression, anxiety, drug use, and suicide among minors who have been subjected to the practice. It is unclear if conversion therapy is practiced here in Maine, but supporters say the bill would send a strong message. Opponents of the bill say the proposal goes too far and erodes parental rights.
Every state needs to make sure that this practice that has been deemed harmful by every major medical organization in the country is not practiced.
They're also saying a therapist who simply uses things like the Bible or experience can lose their license, can be sued, can lose their livelihood.
The Joint Standing Committee on Health Coverage, Insurance, and Financial Services will hear the bill on Wednesday in Augusta. It's a New England solution for a nationwide crisis. Maine Governor Janet Mills and her advisors want to use a product from Rhode Island to combat opioid overdoses. It's called the Nalox Box, and it's a kit containing the overdose revival drug naloxone. Yesterday, the Mills administration set the goal of putting 100 Nalox boxes in public buildings. Officials say the kits would be placed in highly visible areas in the buildings, just like defibrillators. Recovery advocates say the decision is helpful because there's not much data showing where overdoses happen, so more naloxone access may save lives. Some spring snow is headed our way. Meteorologist Jessica Conley has a full look at your forecast coming up. Plus, the FBI says the teenager who claimed to be a missing boy from 2011 is not who he says he is. A stunning result to DNA tests in the case of a man who claimed to be an Illinois boy who has been missing for almost 8 years. As NBC's Wendy Wolfolk reports, investigators are calling it a painful hoax. Meteorologist Jessica Conley is here with a full look at the forecast. I know some people are groaning about this spring snow, but we should be used to this by now.
I know.